sure everything's ready to go. Alrighty. Welcome to Office Hours. We're going to get this party started, and it looks like it's just rolled over onto 10 o'clock, so we're going to get started right now. Good morning, and welcome to the 37th session of Office Hours. My name is Adrian. I'm the CEO and founder of Groundhogg, and this Office Hours session is dedicated to helping you overcome roadblocks in your business, into answering your questions about Groundhogg, marketing, WordPress, and many other things that contribute to your business success. Today's theme will be focusing on agencies and freelancers a little bit, and of course, after that, we're going to be moving on to our regular Q&A session. So before we get started, why don't you just pop into the comments section or the chat area of this live stream, pop in your name, say hi, just let me know that you're here on the call with me. It'd be lovely to give you a shout out. Previously recorded office hours, including this session, will be posted to the Academy site, so academy.groundhog.io. You can go watch the replay of this office hours there at any time, and you'll also be able to watch previous replays of previous office hours as well. So before we jump into the main topic for today, which is agency and freelancer and Groundhogg, I just wanted to let you know something that we've been working on. There has been a fair amount of confusion, and there have been problems with some of the email providers that we generally recommend: SendGrid, AWS, SendWP. We get lots of questions about which one should we use or which one's the best, and I have lots of support problems. And part of the problem with that is we have very little control over the support or the development of those solutions. And we wanted to be able to provide our customers with kind of like a de facto, this is the one that you should use solution. So I have been working extremely diligently with a partner outside of the regular Groundhogg team to produce products that we're calling Mailhawk. Now, Mailhawk will be our own SMTP provider. It's not going to be a Groundhogg product per se. It'll be a standalone product line, and so that it's not limited to the Groundhogg audience. Anybody who uses WordPress and sends email through WordPress will be able to use this product. It should be available around the end of April, and it's going to take care of your email delivery, bounces. It's going to have all the DNS validation stuff, and it's going to have lots of awesome features to enable you to send better email and have that email reach the inbox, with as little setup and troubleshooting as humanly possible. So look forward to us talking more about that and launching this brand new product. It's going to be really, really good. I'm just going to make sure that my chat messages are actually coming through. And it looks like now they are. Great. Okay, so with that out of the way, look forward to Mailhawk coming out around the end of April, early May. And let's talk about how Groundhogg can actually decrease your agency workload. I wrote at 2 a.m. recently an article going into great detail about my experiences working in an agency. If you're not familiar with my story, originally I was working in a local digital marketing agency here in Toronto. I was an Infusionsoft certified partner, and it was my duty and responsibility to build out marketing campaigns and funnels and landing pages and everything for our client list, usually with WordPress, Infusionsoft, and a host of other software as a service products. And over my 6 years of working in that agency, 3 of them as an ICP, I learned a lot of things about what was holding up the agency process. If you have been an agency for a while, then you're acutely familiar with the margins associated with being an agency. Being a digital marketing agency or freelancer is a lifestyle business, and a lifestyle business generally means that what comes into the business is your income, and there's not a whole lot left over. If you get a $10,000 contract, you have $10,000 to work with, and that's kind of just how it works. The margins on agency and freelancer work are not very large. Even on a large mid-tier 5-digit project, anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000, the amount of man hours required to invest into that project to produce a successful outcome for that client can be in the hundreds of hours, basically eating away at any profitability for that project. Having worked on many, many, many large 5-digit projects, I witnessed firsthand a lot of the inefficiencies in the agency workflow that ate in additionally to those hours and essentially decreased those margins even further. When we originally designed Groundhogg, our intention was to essentially just solve those inefficiencies. We wanted to provide agencies with a tool that they could use for their clients that would speed up their workflow and make the process both easier for them and easier for their clients. And we're going to go over with what those solutions are and how Groundhogg can solve those solutions for your agency. You may already be doing this. This may be new information to you. But if you might not even be using Groundhogg at this point. If you are in any of those categories, I think this is still going to be extremely valuable. We're going to be doing this till probably around the 10:25, 10:30 mark. And after that, we're going to go back into our regular Q&A. So if you have questions about Groundhogg, you have questions about funnels, you have questions about automation, hold those questions till we get to the regular Q&A section. If you have questions at any point about what I'm talking about, which is specifically like agency-focused, tools and strategies, then feel free to drop those in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them as we go through it. So for this, I am going to open up the article that I wrote. So I would recommend that you go to Groundhogg /blog, and it's the top article right at the top of the list there. 7 ways Groundhogg can decrease your agency workload, and I invite you to follow along as I go through this. This is me working as a digital marketing strategist in the agency, talking with several clients at the same time. It's fun to reminisce about that stuff. So, to quickly cover up why this is important, agencies typically suffer from a huge problem, which is low margins on projects. Scope creep, bad clients, costly software, and a host of other issues can eat into project profitability and cause a lot of anxiety and grief for agency owners and freelancers. Here are ways that Groundhogg can solve some of those problems for you and relieve your anxiety and your grief just a little bit by creating replicable processes that will save you a whole lot of time and hopefully a whole lot of money as well. So obviously the first one that Groundhogg allows you to do, and this is one of our main sell points, is the consolidation of technology. Probably the most time-consuming process, maybe not the most, maybe the second most time-consuming process when working with a large client project was going and acquiring all of the technology and stitching it all together to make it work in perfect harmony. The client would want the CRM to talk to WordPress and to the scheduling and to the LMS and to QuickBooks for whatever reason and all of these various different other things. And it really just became a nightmare of piecemealing and stitching a web of technology that wasn't really ever meant to work together in the very crazy and not exactly user-friendly way. So one of the main ideas when designing Groundhogg and pushing out that software initially was to remove as much software as a service from the game as possible and as many other tools and softwares as humanly possible. We were stitching together WordPress, Infusionsoft WooCommerce, Shopify, Zapier, Calendly, and Appointment Core, and it was just a mess. So we thought, all right, well, how can we put as much of that stuff in WordPress as humanly possible? Because if it all exists within WordPress, you don't need to mess with APIs, you don't need to mess with Zapier, you don't need to mess with credentials, and you can have it all just talk nicely together within WordPress. So that was the main goal. And we have accomplished a significant portion of that. I think you can have your e-commerce, your funnels, your newsletters, CRM, sales pipeline, scheduling, all in WordPress now, all with Groundhog, and maybe some of our extensions as well. So that is the first place that we were able to save mountains and mountains and mountains of time. And there are a few other reasons why consolidating technology is a good reason, but we're going to get on to those in a second. Secondly, we're just going to talk about some portable strategies. Now, software as a service, the reason that software as a service is so successful at what they do is because they make it incredibly painful to leave their platform, which is fine. It's you invest so much time in building funnels and building strategies and kind of like getting your system working in, let's say, Infusionsoft or HubSpot or ActiveCampaign, that once you become a certain level of unhappy with the service, the cost of switching to another service appears to be more expensive or more costly than than sticking with it and continuing to paying your monthly donations or your monthly bill or whatever. We didn't want our customers to feel that way with Groundhog, so we made everything as humanly as portable as possible. Portable means you can pick it up and you can move somewhere else. So let's say you had 2 clients on ActiveCampaign or Infusionsoft, either or. The process of moving your strategies that you built for client A to client B, you have 2 options. You have very complicatedly becoming a certified partner, pushing something to the marketplace, then downloading it from the marketplace or having the client download it from the marketplace. You have to get your funnels approved and everything, and it's just a whole complicated mess. In Groundhog, we just wanted to be a simple export, import. We move from client A to client B. So in Groundhog, funnels, emails, and all of that good stuff are just JSON files. You can just export them and then move them to any other client site. So that means if you create an e-commerce funnel that's working really, really well for an e-commerce client, and you get a new e-commerce client and you want to use the same funnel, it's trivial in order to move that funnel over and just change whatever the content is. Not so in other software as a service applications. It's actually incredibly difficult. You basically just have to do it manually and recreate everything manually. A huge time suck. It would just be so much easier to just export it and import it into another application and just change the content. That is what we have done in order to save you eons and mountains of time. We see some customers, some agency customers, actually deploy a different strategy that I think is really interesting. What I've seen some people do is they set up a multi-site. If you're familiar with WordPress multi-site, which is just a network of various different multi-sites, and then they pre-configure Groundhog in one of the subsites, and then they just duplicate that site for every single client that they onboard, and then just change the content and build the site around that Groundhog installation with all of the funnels and stuff pre-set up. So it's a very interesting strategy that I see people doing. That way you can skip like 90% of the Groundhog configuration just by duplicating some sites or just exporting and importing funnels. So really, really, really interesting stuff that I see agencies doing in order to save time there. We talked about the consolidation of technology. The larger time-consuming process of the software acquisition or the software aspect of working in an agency is definitely the stitching of stuff together. But the acquisition part of that with the client can be just as, if not more painful than the actual making it work together. There are 2 ways in an agency to go about software acquisition. Option A is to have the client give you their credit card deals, or their credit card details rather, and then you go out and acquire all of the various different software as a service tools that you're going to need on their credit card, and then you get a nasty email from the client asking why you took their credit card to go purchase a whole bunch of different software, and then you have to explain to them that it was part of your agreement, and then there's a little bit of a disagreement there, and inevitably then the customer's credit card is canceled or expired, and then you have to get a new credit card and then go update all of the billing information in the various different software and service tools because they have no idea how to do it because they didn't sign up for it in the first place. That's option A. Option B is to have your client go sign up for all of the various different software as a service tools and inevitably have them purchase the wrong tool, or they just outright say, I don't really want to sign up for this, or they sign up for the wrong plan, and it's just a back and forth conversation and nothing gets done. And it takes you a week to get all of the actual appropriate software that you need in order to complete that client project. Not a great, neither of those options really sound ideal to me. And I know that, when we were doing the larger projects, it took up to half a day to get all of that squared away. And, half a day we had, 4 or 5 people on the team. You're paying salaries for 4 or 5 people for half a day, basically just sitting around twiddling their thumbs because you can't, move ahead if you don't have the appropriate software. Waste of time, waste of money, and just total like crazy inefficiency. Our solution to this problem is twofold. Number one, we have the agency license package. So the agency license is a license that you as an agency can purchase, and you can use that license for up to 50 clients. This means that your client is not responsible for any billing. They're not responsible for updating card information. They're not responsible for licensing. Essentially, you become the sole beneficiary of the license, and then you can, at your discretion, provide said license to your customer. You can charge for it. You can white label it. You can do essentially whatever you want for it. The agency license is basically a hall pass with our products. I see a lot of agencies purchasing this license and then including it as part of their service package. So let's say if you wanted to have a monthly recurring billing from your agency client list, then what you would do is you would charge monthly for their use of your agency license, although you wouldn't specify it. You can just say, CRM expense and add that as their monthly cost, and then you can collect that recurring revenue by using your agency license. I see a lot of customers doing that. Going back to the multi-site network that I was speaking about earlier, you can charge people for the use of the multi-site network, and you can use the agency license for that as well. So some interesting strategies there in order to create recurring billing. Super cool stuff. If you work on those large 5-digit projects, then typically you can only have maybe 1 to 2 at a time, which usually means that you have something called the client handoff. This was the case with our agency. Some agencies decide to put them on retainer, some just hand them off and move on to the next client. However you do it, typically there's some sort of training involved with the client to help them understand what you built, to train them on whatever systems and processes you designed with like forms and admin notifications and file uploads and all of that stuff. If that's the case, then I'm going to share with you some of my experience with performing client handoffs the old way. So the old way was we'd get on a call with usually the systems admin, rarely the business owner. It's usually just, the person behind the front desk who is now responsible for learning all of this stuff because that's what happens. And they don't have a whole lot of technical training, maybe besides some Excel skills. And we would get them on the call and we'd explain, all right, so this is what we built and this is how we're going to move you forward. And you need to understand X amount of things in order to successfully implement what we've built for you. And they're like, okay, that sounds great. And then we'd log into WordPress and like, what's WordPress? What's a post? What's a page? And it's like, okay, fair enough. You have very little training on this up to this point. So we'd explain WordPress. We'd spend, half an hour explaining exactly what WordPress is, and then we'd move on. And they're like, okay, I get it. And then we'd move on to the CRM aspect or the marketing automation aspect, and that was just a whole thing. We'd log into Infusionsoft, and the question would be, okay, so why are we going from WordPress to Infusionsoft? What's Infusionsoft? And then we'd have to spend 20 to 30 minutes explaining exactly what Infusionsoft is, and then to be like, well, why are we paying for Infusionsoft? I don't think we need it. And it's like, well, we just spent, all of this time and all of this money and your money implementing Infusionsoft. Absolutely, you need it, and then you have to explain why you need it, and it's just kind of like this recurring iterative process of getting absolutely nowhere until inevitably you get to, you're explaining the process and the system and the sales pipeline and all of that stuff, and then you get all the way to the end of the call, and like, yeah, I get it, okay, makes sense. And then you're like, great, that went well. You turn off the call, you get an email the next morning, and like, I need you to re-explain it to me, or I need you to explain it to this team member, or I need you to explain it to whatever. And then you could basically multiply that conversation by 4 or 5, and it's just this never-ending process. That at least was my experience with handing off clients the old way. Now, there is still going to be an element of that with whatever project, because hey, listen, no one's you're the expert in that relationship, not necessarily the systems admin or the secretary or whoever. You're always going to be the expert in that situation, but we can make it easier. Typically, most customers that we work with are familiar or comfortable with using WordPress. They're okay with blogging, or they're okay with editing, content or whatever. So Groundhogg is designed in a way that mimics WordPress to the best of our abilities. It looks like WordPress. It feels like WordPress. It acts like WordPress. So the post-publishing process is nearly identical to the email broadcast process. You add an email, you edit it, you select the author and whatnot, and then you broadcast it. In the case of the post, you publish it. It's a similar, slightly different, but similar publishing experience. So that way we can mitigate the amount of training on multiple different platforms, and instead we can only train on one platform, which is, of course, the WordPress platform. You can then mitigate the logging in and out of different softwares, the bookmarking and all of that stuff by just having all of your stuff centrally located in the WordPress dashboard to make the client training experience, if not totally easy breezy, at least simplified. So you can at least cut that conversation down maybe by 30 to 60% of kind of like wasteful explanation. So let's talk about productization. This isn't necessarily so much a Groundhogg feature as it is something your agency should definitely be doing as a result of what Groundhogg can do for you. So products sell easier than services. That's kind of just like that's an observation, if not a fact. It is way easier in my belief to sell a product than it is to sell a service. The typical agency methodology of selling services is you get on a discovery call, you get all of the things that you want, you pull a number out from behind your back of how much time that's going to take you, you multiply that by your hourly rate, and then you give them a quote. And that works sometimes, it doesn't work sometimes. There's a lot of back and forth negotiation that goes in with that, and it's kind of just like a whole thing. Mostly because the client doesn't actually understand the value of what they are getting in relation to the time and expertise that it takes to execute. And what I mean by that is if you just pull a random hourly figure, they don't know if let's say they ask for a funnel, email marketing, total CRM build out, that is like a totally like figment of their imagination of what that end product will actually look like. They have no idea what that end product looks like. They might have like a concept, but it's not going to, what your end result is not going to be close to what they actually think it's going to be. So when you pull that, figurative number out of their back, they don't know how those hours are broken up. They don't know how the cost is broken up. They don't know what pieces are involved, and it's basically you're setting yourself up for failure because their level of expectation does not match yours. Productization allows you to set clear expectations for the client in terms of result and value. So if, let's say, instead they come to me and that's like, I want a full CRM built, and I want email marketing, I want digital marketing funnels, and I want landing pages, and so on and so forth, and I wanted to achieve this end result, how much time or what's that going to cost me? What I would then do is I would then break up their request into multiple different line items, classified by either strategy or end result that I am familiar with. and then price those items out individually instead of just combining all of the hours and then assigning a dollar figure or dollar amount to those hours. So let's say I decide that what they need is a digital marketing, a lead magnet funnel with some simple follow-up. They need a booking calendar installed, and they need some sort of sales pipeline installed. Okay, well, sales pipeline, let's just call that, sales pipeline implementation with like 5 stages and training involved. Let's just call that $1,500. Lead magnet download funnel, let's just call that $1,500. And then they can see on the invoice that you give to them exact dollar figures for specific strategies so that they can associate end result with dollar figure. That will be a much more productive process to providing them or to, first of all, onboarding them as a client and actually receiving their credit card information, but also it'll be a much more productive process when you reach the end of the project because they will be able to associate completion with dollar figure, and they're not going to try to implement scope creep or any of the other stuff that prevents projects from launching. Groundhog is relevant in this situation because of the portability that we talked about earlier. Because we want to productize, we want to make the productization of those services as easy as possible. So for each line item, we want to be able to just kind of like spin something up and just install it or just provide it to them on a silver platter as quickly as possible. So we can go export whatever strategy that we had as a line item, and we can go drop it in their site really, really, really easy. So you can productize specific funnel templates, specific emails, specific plugins. You can productize whatever you need to because of Groundhog's portability and the ease of that portability. So if you're not productizing, I recommend you do. We actually go into this a whole lot deeper in our certified partner program, which I might actually talk about a little bit about after this. So I'm going to hold that thought for a little bit right now. Coming back to the software, the software acquisition thing and the software acquisition discussion. We talked, so 3 problems in that we talked about the actual connecting of softwares together is nearly impossible, if not extremely time consuming. We talked about the actual process of going out and acquiring all those softwares is extremely time consuming. The third obstacle is the software build conversation that you're going to have 30 days after you start the project. If you can complete the project in 30 days, kudos, good on you. And if they see an ROI within those 30 days, even better. Typically on those 5-digit projects, those mid-tier 5-digit projects, it usually takes 30 to 60 days to complete. And then, ROI comes in maybe a few weeks to a couple months after that. That's just, in my experience, that's pretty typical. It may be a lot shorter for you, in which case that's pretty awesome. But if you're in that ballpark where, can take 3-4 months from project completion to ROI, the thing about software as a service is that it usually bills monthly, which means that before that customer sees return on investment, they're going to have whatever 3, 4, 5 software as a service products ding their credit card 4 to 5 times before that ROI. So that means that their total investment is now whatever they've invested in you, whatever they initially invested in the software, and then that multiplied by 5. So that can be a brutal conversation to have, once they're saying, hey, listen, I need this stuff to start working like yesterday because I'm getting all of these software bills. And that creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of animosity, and just an overall unhappy client experience because they're not seeing that initial return on investment because it takes time for this stuff to work out. The solution to this problem is if the software as a service offers yearly billing, you should absolutely purchase yearly billing. The reason you should buy yearly billing instead of monthly is usually there's a discount associated with it. Secondly, yearly billing provides you 12 months to see a return on investment instead of 30 days. So that means your client, you have a 365 days to get a return on investment for that software acquisition. So basically, you have 365 days to make whatever your yearly investment is back on that platform. If you use monthly billing, you only have 30 days to recoup that investment, which a lot of the time isn't enough time in order to get that original investment back. Groundhogg, of course, is all yearly billing. So if they decide to purchase Groundhogg for themselves and use their own license key, then by all means, you can do that. Or you can use your agency license and remove the billing conversation altogether. But yearly billing is definitely the way to go when you're doing large client projects, simply because you don't want 3 to 5 monthly software bills continuously dinging your client's credit card without being able to show any return on investment. Going back and, retrospect is, and, hindsight 2020 and all that, definitely would have done a whole lot more yearly billing if it's available. If it's not available, then use Groundhogg and remove that conversation. If you don't have that opportunity, well, less than 30 days, and good luck to you. Final point that I would like to cover about this conversation is just software transparency and data ownership. If you go through the software acquisition process and use the client's credit card, they don't know where to update their billing information. They don't know how that's all working. They don't know what their obligations are in terms of client, credit card responsibility. So let's say they cancel their card and, you've already handed off the project to them. You're not really communicating with that client anymore. Their card expires. All of their web forms stop working because, ActiveCampaign, shuts down their account because they haven't paid their bill in a while. Who is responsible for that? It's probably not going to be ActiveCampaign. It's probably going to be you, the agency owner, because you were responsible for informing them or training on that they had to go actually update their credit card information. So that is going to be an angry and terse email. The thing about using open source self-hosted products like Groundhogg is that billing, licensing, and our website properties will never affect your CRM from continuing to operate normally. We do not prevent any of our premium extensions or the main Groundhogg plugin from continuing regular operation in the event of a billing error or a licensing error. You will simply just stop receiving automatic updates and support. So that means if that is something that you are conscious of and that the client is conscious of, then put them on Groundhogg so that no matter what, their business will continue to operate normally, even in the event of credit card or billing errors, which can, of course, be taken care of later. So data ownership goes hand in hand with that. They own their data. That means if they're let's say, a business which needs to be at a higher level of compliance than regular businesses, cannabis, medical, German businesses or businesses located in Germany have to abide by this, certain German niche businesses. If you are in that scope, then Groundhogg is ideal because you can just drop it on whatever local hosting company and self-host all of the data. Software service products are limited in the ability to service businesses that have higher levels of compliance simply because they're not either HIPAA compliant or they're not, they don't have certain compliance certificates for certain kind of like medical businesses, etc. So you are opening yourself by using Groundhogg for your agency. You are opening yourself up to a whole new niche by targeting businesses which need those specific levels of compliance, and the only way to achieve that compliance is to self-host all of their workload, all of their CRM, all of their client information, etc. So some super interesting opportunities there for agencies who want to kind of expand into specific niches, work with niches that can't use software as a service products and provide Groundhogg as a service instead. All right, let's talk about, I mentioned quickly our certified partner program. We do have a certified partner program for agencies to help them get clients and provide them with sales and digital marketing training and lots of good stuff in order to kind of kickstart the agency process. If you've already an existing agency and you're doing very well as an agency, this is still a good program for you to attend because it'll provide you with the opportunity to communicate with other agencies and maybe hear some feedback, some strategies, and learn something. So if you are interested in that at all, I'd absolutely recommend that you go to partners and then click on become a partner to learn about the certified partner application process. We do have a uh, we are providing a benefit and an incentive for partners to sign up during this whole COVID-19 thing. We want to incentivize agencies to help businesses who are currently struggling as a result of a loss of business, closed doors. Many businesses don't understand that marketing automation is an opportunity for them to stay in contact with their customer list while their regular operations are kind of shut down. Businesses who fail to communicate with their customer list during this period will find that once it's all over, they will not come back to the same level of business that they had before. I think agencies have an opportunity to communicate with those kinds of businesses and provide them with tools and strategies to ensure that when regular operations resume, that they will be able to access that same pool of customers and business that they had beforehand. We are going to be talking a lot about that during our Certified Partner Mastermind and various other ways, and I've already provided training a lot on how to manage the whole COVID-19 situation with your existing customer list and by finding new customers as well. So to find out more about how you can become a certified partner and all the benefits of that, I highly recommend that you go to Partners in the menu and then become a partner and go through that application process. Again, we do have a benefit currently happening, which is going to go against the regular tuition fee for certified partners who want to help businesses navigate the global pandemic situation. Okay, that brings me right to the end of the agency conversation that I wanted to have. We spent a good 35 minutes on that. That's awesome. We are now going to open it up to good old-fashioned regular Q&A. So any questions that you have about Groundhogg, marketing, email marketing, CRM management, extensions, WordPress, etc., you name it, we got it. Just comment in the comments section, and we are going to go through those one by one. I'm going to repeat the question, and then we are going to answer it live right here on the call in real time. There does seem to be a rather lengthy delay to where the words leave my mouth and you get to hear them. It looks around anywhere from 20 to 30 seconds. So I apologize for any lengthy periods of silence that happen in the next little while. I see a couple of people chiming into the chat. I see Louis, Rosanna, Greg, and Zane. All of you, welcome to the call, and thank you for joining me today on this Tuesday morning. Again, if there are any questions, either unrelated to the agency platform, related to agencies, just Groundhog questions in general, you have a question about implementing a certain kind of funnel, this is your opportunity to get those questions in. I see Zane has no questions for me today, which must mean one of two things. Either we're not working hard enough or we're doing really, really good at our job. So, but thanks for coming in, Zane. If no questions come in, we're actually pretty close to the 40-minute mark, which is usually where we end these sessions. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes, and if no questions come in, we're just going to end it. Rosanna says, "I'm good. Enjoy your live sessions. Thank you." Wow, if everybody's got no questions, that must mean we're doing something right, which is good to hear. I'm glad. And D says, brand spanking new user, no questions. Well, I'm sure that will change, D. But welcome to the community, and it's good to have you on board. Lots of resources available on academy.groundhog.io. I'm going to provide links to all of our very useful resources for new users shortly, D. So stay tuned for those. Mike Roberts asks, What are the top 3 to 5 funnels you'd recommend for all new Groundhog users? Well, I'm glad you asked that, Mike. So let's close this real quickly, and I'm going to open up Groundhog for us. So there are a few funnels that it's really easy to start with, and I'd recommend that you start with. And you can actually find these funnels that I think are valuable to start with by going to Funnels and clicking Add New. And you'll actually find a list of funnel templates that we've pre-configured, pre-written emails for, and pre-designed for a highest engagement from your audience. So the first few funnels, if you have a membership site, which is extremely popular these days, recurring revenue, training, all of that stuff, especially with like a learning component like an LMS, like Lifter LMS, then one of the really one of the best funnels that you can do is one of the login abandonment funnels. This will send a series of emails every time someone logs in and doesn't log in a secondary time for, let's say, 7 to 14 days. So they've abandoned, they haven't logged in. We haven't seen you in a while. Well, you want people to constantly engage with your content and with your membership and new features and new content, and etc. The way you do that is via the login abandonment funnel. You just say, it's an email that says, hey, listen, we haven't seen you in a while. We'd love you to come back. And then they click the email, log back in, and continue the process. And this is a recurring funnel, so this will happen every single time that someone logs in. So super easy one. I'd recommend that one to start off with if you have a membership or LMS site component. Everybody needs a lead magnet download funnel. Our lead magnet download funnel consists of, we have a couple of them. We have one for our Quick Start. So our official Quick Start course is our actual lead magnet. We use that course as a free course lead magnet. That's a course I learned. That's a strategy I learned from Chris Badgett of Lifter LMS. It's really a useful strategy. Lead magnets can also become in the form of like white papers, PDFs, documents, videos, etc. The list goes on and on and on and on. But essentially, it's like, I'm going to trade you an email address for this piece of valuable content. That's what a lead magnet download funnel is. You should absolutely have one of those. Stick a form on one of your pages, and you're pretty much good to go. Feedback request. Reviews are super important to a business. It's hard to do business unless you have reviews and testimonials these days. Because if you don't have reviews, guess what? Somebody else does, and they're usually going to go with the person who does. So it's really important, especially in early days, to generate as many reviews as possible. If someone is purchasing a product from you, you need to send out an email that says, hey, listen, you bought this product. Would you mind leaving a review if you really liked it? And, you'll probably get maybe, not 9 times out of 10, but maybe like 3 times out of 10, someone will actually take the 3 or 4 minutes to leave a review. We have an example of that going on for Groundhog. We send this email out. And let's see if I can find it here. I think it's this one. Yeah, here we go. So we send out this review email every time someone orders a product. So 7 days after they purchase anything from our store, either a plan or one of the individual extensions, we send out this review exactly 7 days after their order. 7 days is usually enough time to install it, get familiar with it, play with it, have a couple support questions. So we just say, hey, listen, we wanted to follow up with you after your most recent purchase, and then we merge in whatever their purchase details were. If you're enjoying the freedom of marketing from WordPress, would you mind taking the next 2 minutes to provide a review? We give them links to review either on Facebook or on WordPress. In your case, as an agency or as a different kind of business, it might be on Google or Facebook. It's up to you or where your customers most spend or look for reviews. And then you provide them an explanation of how reviews are helpful and any benefits that they have from leaving a review. So review funnel, review feedback request funnel, critical. Next one, new subscriber welcome. This is an easy one simply because it's just whenever someone signs up to your list for the first time or becomes a new user, you just send them a series of emails that's like, this is who I am, this is what we do, this is our mission, this is our focus, this is how we're going to help you, these are some useful resources. And it basically just like an email walkthrough of your business. Easy to configure, and it has pretty good results for indoctrinating and educating your new subscribers. Essentially, you're priming them to make a purchasing decision later on. You don't do any selling in the subscriber welcome series. It's all just about helping and providing education, and most importantly, indoctrination. So hopefully those are some good funnels to get you started with. Those are, how many is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4 funnels to get started with. Those are the 4 that I'd recommend if you have not done any sort of like marketing automation in the past. Those are easy ones to get started with, and I just implement those and go from there. So hopefully that answers your question, Mike. Louis asks, can you tell a little bit more about the emailing system? So Mailhawk that we talked about. Yes. So I introduced Mailhawk. Mailhawk is a new email SMTP service provider that I am currently working on with a partner, and it should be available either by late April or early May. So very, very soon. It's going to provide the opportunity to replace AWS, SendGrid, SendWP, etc. We wanted to eliminate the conversation of which SMTP service should I use, and we are making a service specifically designed to send email in the most efficient way possible from WordPress to your end user with good deliverability, as well as a deep integration with Groundhogg and other WordPress plugin providers. It's going to be good. I am not at liberty at this moment to discuss pricing or any of those things. A lot of those details are still being sorted out. But I will tell you that we are going to stop recommending SendWP and start recommending this as well. We're not going to touch any of our SMTP integration. So we're leaving AWS and we're leaving our SMTP extension alone. So if you're committed to using those platforms, we're not going to force you to change or anything. But this will become kind of like the Groundhogg's default recommendation. So I can tell you that much. Nick asks, what is the biggest, or what are some of the biggest differences between Montek and Groundhogg? If you're not familiar with Montek, Montek is another open source marketing automation platform. It is not a WordPress plugin. So you basically get a server going and you install you install Montek, kind of like you would install WordPress. So it's kind of like its own individual platform. I certainly, I see some people using it effectively. I think the biggest difference between Montek and Groundhogg is the fact that Groundhogg is a paid service and a WordPress plugin. So Groundhogg has a deep focus on integration with WordPress products and WordPress itself. Montek, not so much. Montek certainly has integrations with forms and stuff, and some superficial WordPress integrations as well, but not nearly to the point as effective as it is with Groundhogg. We really, really focus on getting really deep into merging WordPress core functionality with Groundhogg as much as possible, and removing again the need to stitch together multiple platforms. Groundhogg also is, of course, a freemium software, so we have a paid service, and which is what we generally enjoy people signing up for. Montek is not that way. Montek is purely open source. There is a paid component of it, kind of like how WordPress.com works, where they have like hosted Montek, so you don't have to worry with the actual self-hosted port of it, which I think is kind of self-defeating, but to each their own. So Groundhogg has paid user contribution behind it, which means that we pay myself as well as our development team as well as our support team to actually contribute to the Groundhogg product and continue development. Montek is kind of like classic open source. It's developed by community contributors, kind of like how WordPress is, although WordPress development is arguably funded entirely by Automatic. So um, I do hear that we have a lot of Modic converts actually in the Groundhog community. I mean, I've never actually used the platform to a great extent myself to experience any of the buggy functionality that I've been told exists. It is a beast though, is what I hear. So there is a lot of configuration, there is a lot of setup, and there is a lot of kind of like server debugging that you have to do, which I'm not particularly fond of. And to an extent, that exists with Groundhog as well. You have to have appropriate server requirements, and you have to set up the cron and stuff. But I do believe we have a simpler setup process than you would experience with Monic. Um, Modic, that is to say, Modic is extremely powerful software if configured properly. I do see people using it incredibly successfully, and it is good software. It's kind of just like, what do you want to spend your time doing? If you set up Modic, I guarantee that you will be spending most of your time configuring, debugging, and playing, and setting up marketing automation, stuff like that. With Groundhog, the majority of your time will be spent putting a funnel together, launching it, and then spending time actually selling and growing and scaling and stuff like that. Once you get into Modic, you're really becoming kind of like an IT person, and you'll be spending a lot of your time doing IT things. With Groundhog, you're not going to be doing as much of that IT work, and you're going to be mostly focused on the actual marketing aspect of it, getting it out there, sending emails, building your funnels, etc. That is kind of like my 30 cents on the topic. It's good software. If you want to use it, you go right ahead. It's absolutely free. Um, just it's just it's a IT, I think, oriented platform. Nick says, I like this funnel demo. Can you do a CRM demo? I'm not. Can you specify what do you mean by funnel demo? I'm not really sure. If you can clarify that for me, Nick, I would be appreciative. There's a follow-up question. I'm using GoDaddy for hosting my WordPress site. Can I use the same hosting plan to host Groundhog? You can. There's nothing's gonna stop you. I'm not a big fan of GoDaddy hosting. They typically cut a lot of corners, even on their higher tier hosting plans. I would go for something like Kinsta or Cloudways or DigitalOcean or any of kind of like the scaling hosting providers, the higher tier stuff is typically what I recommend and what I use myself. I use Google Cloud Hosting, which I find works really, really well. It's really expensive though. That's the only thing. So you will need to have an SMTP service provider. GoDaddy limits the amount of emails that you can send via your kind of like the inbuilt SMTP service, which if you're using that, by the way, anyway, anybody who's using the built-in kind of like WordPress or the built-in server email system, you should stop immediately. You are ruining your domain's into reputation. So you should be using an SMTP service provider, Nick. There's certainly nothing stopping you from installing Groundhog, and I'm sure it'll work just fine. With GoDaddy, I believe you'll run into scaling issues down the road, especially if your list size gets exorbitantly large, like plus 50,000 people. You're gonna have issues, especially with that level of traffic on a GoDaddy server. The big issue with scaling a WordPress site is not necessarily if Groundhog or the database gets big, but usually your customer contact database is indicative of your level of traffic, and traffic is really where the issue kicks in. Website traffic. I think you should invest in higher tier hosting and going down like the Cloudways, DigitalOcean, Kinsta, stuff like that route. To start right now, if you're invested and you just want to get started and you have no traffic and you're not really worried about any of that scaling stuff down the road right now, you go right ahead. You install Groundhog, and you'll be okay for now. Nick also clarified what he means by a CRM demo. So are you talking about the 3 to 5 CRM features that you'd want featured? I'm just not really sure. I mean, the CRM is to me is just like the CRM. It's where all of your contacts are stored. It's where all of your custom fields and stuff. I'll give you some points of interest maybe for the CRM. So if we go open up contact record here. So you go to contacts. First thing that most people fail to notice is that you can just search your contact database relatively easy. You just click the search button, and there's like a whole bunch of search fields that you can use to segment your contacts into specific search categories and view those contacts. So that's an easy method for searching. If we actually go ahead and open up a contact record, some other points of interest. Let's talk about if you go to activity, you can view all recent activity for a particular contact. So if they've submitted any forms, if they any email history, any current active funnel history that you can look at. So super cool stuff there. So if you're looking or debugging a specific contact, or you want to prove that a contact record opened or clicked a specific email, then you'll be able to actually find that history in their contact record. Those are some points of interest that most people fail to realize are actually there. Nick asks, is there a pipeline? How do we keep notes for customers, and how do we see customer behaviors? All right, so customer behavior, activity tab. You can just view any specific contact record, see what emails they're opening, see what stuff they're doing. That is where you go to look at their behavior. Pipeline. So the pipeline is included in the Groundhog pipeline extension. So that is a premium extension, which you'll find at groundhog/downloads/pipeline. And it has your kind of like drag and drop card deal sales pipeline available to use. And notes for customers. So notes for customers are just taken care of via, there's a notes tab. So all you just do is add a note and click on add note. And that is how you keep track of notes. So hopefully that answers all of your questions, Nick. We're right up against the 1 hour mark, so I'm going to start wrapping it up. Thank you everybody for coming and asking and participating in office hours session today. We had a really good turnout today. Like usually it's larger than we usually have, so that's awesome. Thank you for spending your time with us. Let's go back to our slide deck really quick. If you're asking or continuing to ask questions, I do apologize because we're going to start wrapping it up, but I am going to provide you with a method to continue asking questions. So first of all, Groundhog resources. So if you're new to Groundhog, this is kind of like your first run around. I highly recommend you go to academy.groundhog.io. There's some resources there, other office hours calls. There's the quick start course there. And guess what? It's all totally free. So that's pretty awesome, I think. So go to academy.groundhog.io to enroll in some of those courses. If you need implementation help, so if you're a new user and you're looking for someone to just kind of like do the work for you, I don't blame you. You can go to groundhog.io/partner /certified partner directory, and that is where you'll be able to find a list of certified partners who are willing and able to help you implement Groundhog and various other marketing automation strategies. If you have a colleague, a business partner, or maybe you're part of a business club, and you think that some of them might benefit from Groundhog, then go to affiliate area /registration. There's also a link to register to become an affiliate in the website footer. Oh, I hate that. That's, how dare they interrupt my browsing experience. You can go to affiliate area /registration to become an affiliate and earn 10% commission recurring every year for any purchases that a customer makes. And if you're not following us, you should be. Go to Groundhog WP on both Facebook and Twitter and make sure that you are following us in order to receive important updates through Twitter, Facebook, etc. And if you're watching this, then you're already part of the Facebook group, so you don't have to take that additional step. We also publish office hours to our YouTube channel after the fact, so make sure you're subscribing to us on YouTube as well. If you are enjoying the Groundhogg service, you're enjoying office hours, you find our work helpful, and you appreciate the work that we're doing, then I would be appreciative of you leaving a review. Reviews allow us to obviously get more customers. Which allows us to increase revenue, which means more developers, which means more products and features that you want and love. The way you leave a review is by going to wordpress.org/plugins/groundhog. And I would just be extremely appreciative if you took the 3 to 4 minutes that it takes to leave a review. If you have more questions, then you can continue commenting and we'll answer your questions via comment. You can also just post in the regular Facebook group and we'll answer your question that way. Or you can message us on both Facebook and Twitter or in email info@groundhogg.io. Thank you. I hope everybody has a lovely day and everyone stay safe.